Cal is a must-win game and a winnable game if Boston College fixed the issues that plagued them over the first 3 games.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I am AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you want Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Eagles, you are in the right spot. Locked On Boston College is a daily Boston College podcast, free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, ACC has 2 options at the time of recording for a new scheduling system. I'll tell you which one works best for BC. What young players could we see after the bye week? I'll tell you a few names you need to know. And Cal is a must-win game for BC. I'll explain why in just a moment. But today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, we're back. It is the end of the bye week blues. Practice is back. It's closed to the media, so unfortunately, we only get the press conferences this week, but that's okay. We'll still get some info from Bill O'Brien. But this Cal game, you're playing 3-1 Cal at home on Saturday at 3:30. This game is about as must-win as it gets for Boston College. You cannot afford to end the month of September 1-3. You just think of how things could adjust if you win this game. You wanted, I projected at the beginning of the summer that like a 4-0 start would be really great. Clearly, that's not happening. However, getting some momentum, given the way this schedule looks, really could flip the season back on the right track. Cal, 3-1. They were a team that a lot of folks going into this last week were like, wow, this is a team that's really good. They're a fun team. They've got JKS, their new quarterback. He looks great. You know, they got some good wide receivers. Then they lay a giant egg against San Diego State, an G5 school. So they definitely, Mitch Wolf of Eagle Insider will be on later this week to talk about it. They have some of the same issues BC has. If you watch them, they turn over the ball a lot. Dylan Larnagin, I would say, is a better quarterback than JKS. Even though, this 4-star recruit, he's getting a lot of love as the quarterback at Cal. I think Larnagin's a more efficient quarterback and makes less mistakes. I think that'll be something to watch for as well. But I look at this game and I say to myself, if they win this, we're back on the road to making a bowl. And for some of you, you may not be happy with just a bowl, but hey, I've said all along that this schedule is a gauntlet. Getting back on the right track is going to be incredibly important. Just making a bowl, I think with the way the season started, will be great. And anything better than that, that's all gravy, right? That's good stuff, right? However, if they lose this game, you're now 1-3, and you're back on the road again next week against Pitt. That is not where you want to be. You need this win. You need to get your team back. You need to hope that the things that had plagued you have been fixed. I look at this roster and say, okay, the catastrophic issues. These are the things that Bill O'Brien keeps bringing up. The fumble by Turbo Richards, the pick 6, the fumbled snap from Dwayne Alec. These and missed tackles, the Sam Roush touchdown and Micah Ford huge run. All these things need to be cleaned up. Can they do it? Remember last year? If you remember last year specifically, there were issues too. This team was not perfect, and it ended on much of a higher note. But that month of October was gross. Your offense couldn't do anything. You were blowing games. You looked not very competitive against Virginia Tech for 3 quarters. You let Louisville come storming back. Like, there were moments last year too that made you feel like, oh gosh, this team's not going in the right direction. But they fixed it. November had a lot of folks feeling very positive, because you put Jake Grayson James in, you fixed it. Now, you don't need to fix the quarterback this year. Dylan Larnagin is more than fine. He's good. He's exciting. But there are other positions where, there's going to be other changes that they're going to have to make, whether it's at punter or offensive line, or maybe you're looking at different edge rushers that you want to use, or linebackers because of an injury, or whatever's going on. that change could get you back into the swing of things. There's no reason to say that if they get things going that they couldn't rip off a bunch of wins in a row. This team believes in themselves. They are not, it was definitely not great to see that video of Stanford chirping at them and they looking with their heads down. But that's where the leaders come in. Reed Harris called them out on it. Reed Harris said, a lot of our guys didn't take the game seriously enough. We need to, do a better job. That is going to have to show on Saturday. If this team can clean things up, Cal is a team that turns the ball over. They make mistakes. They are not perfect. You can win this game. To me, the feeling of this game, if things are going right, this would remind me a lot of the UNC and Pitt game last year, where you just got a team that was hot. Both Pitt and UNC started the season off hot, kind of had a big bump in the road, and you took advantage of it. You can do that again here. The crowd's going to be loud. It's sold out. There's going to be a lot of folks there. And I see the folks saying like, oh, they're going to sell their tickets because it's not going to happen. People talk, but that stadium's going to be loud. I'm pretty sure about that. It's a later start. So maybe all the families that usually leave at halftime will have done lunch instead of dinner and they'll stay later. But, I think a lot of this game is going to be reliant on whether this defense can make some stops. I think you're going to be expecting I think what you realistically need to expect is there's going to be a lot of good and a little bad. I expect that quarterback to make some throws. He's going to make some throws that are going to make you want to tear your hair off, But he'll also make some he could make some errors that really put you back in the game. It's whether the secondary is going to be ready to make and take advantage of this, or the front line. The offensive line for Cal isn't all that great. So there's going to be opportunities to undo the things that you did those first couple weeks and do some different things. And we'll have Mitch Wolf on to talk about the game plan and all that. But I'm just looking from a logistics and program perspective. BC has been 7-1 under Bill O'Brien at home. Home cooking has always been a big thing. You've got Cal coming from across the country after a bad loss. Going across the country is never easy. BC needs to take advantage of this. They didn't last week. 2 weeks ago. They had Stanford almost a 2-touchdown underdog, and they let them win that game. But they did it because they kept shooting themselves in the foot. Play cleaner football. Protect the football, and things will get better. So that's what we're going to need to see from BC, or this is going to be a rough one. I am much more on the optimistic side of things, but I'm also now in the mode of show me. Show me that you've changed. Show me that you've adjusted. Show me that this coaching staff has done some different things that will put them in a better position or sent a message to their roster that this is not acceptable and we're going to make it change as a program. That's what we'll be watching for. I think some of the changes we might see might be on roster players playing, and we might see some new names on Saturday. I have some ideas of who those might be, and I'll get into those in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spot runs on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the local deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Now, on a game day, I'm busy. I want to get food quick. Shake Shack is my go-to place. Getting myself a nice burger and a shake. I feel like I'm in a tailgate, but, sometimes I'm covering the team and I can't get out there. Their food is amazing, and I know a lot of you guys think the same thing. And I would love to get a Shack burger right now. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping out at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I love it because they have zone deals. Zone deals are amazing. You can find good sections, pick the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets, so you need to check out Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LLCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here of Eagle Insider. Thank you all for joining us, and everyone here who has made Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. You know, we've been going hard on this season for the last couple of weeks. We've talked the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Go back, check out our archive if you've not checked out the last couple of weeks. I think you'll enjoy our shows, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and become an everydayer, like many of you in our comment section are right now. Now, what, Bill O'Brien said I really was interested in his Steve Burton interview that he had the other day, because he did mention that they're going to see some younger players, specifically in the secondary. Now, 2 weeks ago, we heard Amari Jackson was out. He got hurt in the Michigan State game. I have no idea what happened to Zaire Torrance. We'll hopefully hear more about what happened to both of them at the press conference tomorrow. But those are your two starting defensive backs. Now, to battle that, O'Brien played Isaiah Ferris, who did pretty well. He wasn't targeted all that much. And Max Tucker, who played okay, but he had one really bad coverage blown, and that really cost BC at one point. Now, O'Brien says specifically in the secondary, you're going to see some younger players play. Remember, the class of 2026 for 2025 for BC was loaded with guys in the secondary. Many of them came early. Now, you're not going to see guys, I don't think, like Najitas and Kala and Marcus Upton. I think both of those guys are hurt. They were on the availability report for injuries out for the last week, so I don't think you'd see them. The names I'm looking for, there's a few. I think Ashton Cunningham is a name to watch for. This is Shaker Reisig's teammate from Union, Oklahoma. He played quite a bit during camp and played a lot against some of the guys that you've watched, like Lewis Bond and Reed Harris, as a true freshman. So, when you're looking at depth, he could be like the Ashton McShane of last year. Remember, McShane came completely out of nowhere and played quite a bit. I could see that with Cunningham. He's a fast guy. I believe he played track in high school. Good size, and he showed some good flashes during camp. So he's one I'd watch. Another name that I thought of was TJ Green. TJ Green, specifically during the summer and specifically during the spring, made a few plays that really opened my eyes. Now, this kid is a track star. He's a special teamer and defensive player. Cornerback, mostly, I think he's listed as a nickelback on the depth chart. Again, a guy that plays right up there with some of those other bigger names that you've heard about. So I think he could be a guy that you see filling in there. And then the third one that I was thinking of as well is Marcellus Townsend. Marcellus Townsend played quite a bit against Stanford. He had 28 snaps. So he's already getting quite a bit of play out there. Now, we don't know how the injuries. To me, Zaire Torrance, the way he Instagrammed that, doesn't sound like he's going to be back. That's just my gut feeling. I don't know anything on that. And I'm not sure about Mari Jackson either. But these young guys, you brought them into play. This is their chance. You get them to play. And so the secondary, I think, would be a big one you're going to see some younger players playing at. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, a guy that I'm still curious if we'll see him soon is Dawson Pugh. Against Fordham, he looked great. He had 3 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown. He was a favorite of Grayson James in that game. If they start to use more wide receivers out there, I could definitely see Pugh playing a little bit more. It's just a matter of snaps. Like, he does things differently than what you would do with VJ Wilkins. So there's an opportunity to play him. I just don't know if they're going to have the snaps to give him. So that's one. But in terms of younger players, you got to look at the offensive line. That's the one that I'm really interested to see how many younger players end up there this week. Obviously, Dwayne Alec got benched in the middle of that game after the bad snap. And he had been plagued by bad snaps for the last 3 games. Michael Crounce was someone that Bill O'Brien really spoke highly about at camp, and now he's get a chance to play. And just my gut again, I don't think Alec is going to get the job back immediately. Like, maybe he has a good practice, but you got to give Crounce his opportunity. Like, he played half of a game. Like, if he's ready and like you thought that, which is what it sounded like at camp, maybe he's going to get a whole game. And if he puts it together, then good. You've got your center. If not, then in Alex doing better, then you do that the next game. But I would imagine Dwayne Alec is not going to start at center in this game. I think Michael Krauts. And then the other injury that we talked about on yesterday's show, will Jude Bowery play? We don't know. He got hurt and he had to go back to the locker room last game. This poor guy has been beat up and banged up for the last 3 years. I would just love for him to be healthy because he's so good. But if he can't play, you got Ryan McCow. And Ryan McCow has, he played last week when Bowery went down. And he played against Nebraska last year. So he's already starting to get his bones. This is a kid that's going to be one of your starting tackles, I think, next year. I really do think he's going to be one of your guys. Will he play? That's going to be something to watch for, too. And then there's other names that you could look for. I wonder if they'll start to sneak in Sterling Sanders. Sterling Sanders was a defensive tackle, 4-star, who got his 4-star after he signed with BC. And, I think there was a lot of hubbub about him because he had some really good senior tape. But really haven't seen a ton of him, and I don't think we've seen him at all. I think he played against Fordham, but really haven't played all that much. If Owen Stodmeyer can't play, I wonder if Sterling Sanders will be a name that starts to get to see more snaps. He's a true freshman, but he's 6 feet. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", 300+ pounds. He's a big kid. He would be a real addition to that defensive line. So you see, there's other guys that you can sprinkle in, and most of these guys that I'm mentioning. Either, the two offensive linemen have been around a little bit, but most of these other guys are early enrollees. It does pay to get them in early. And the other name, also an earlier enrollee and a favorite of my show, is Andy Quinn. Seamus Florio struggled against Stanford, which was a shame because he started the season off so hot. He had, averaged 47 yards per punt against Fordham. Saw it tail off a little bit against Michigan State and really tail off against Stanford. Bill O'Brien said at the beginning of the year that we would probably see both of these punters. Is this the opportunity to see them? I have said all along, just based off of what I've seen between the two guys, I wondered if the best way to use them, and the coaching staff may disagree with me on here, is that Florio does the shorter punts, if you're the 45 of you're on 45 and it's 4th and 10. And you got to punt it. I wonder if Florio would be the better fit there. Otherwise, when you're 20, letting Andy Quinn boom it. There's an argument to be made for that. There's an argument that maybe you use both guys, or maybe you use one. I'm not sure where they're at with that, but that's definitely something that I think BC might be looking at. So those are just some names. There's other names out there too that I'm really curious about. Griffin Collins, the linebacker from Worcester Academy, he impressed me quite a bit this camp. He was everywhere. And if Bam Crouch is out for a while, again, we don't have the availability report yet. Maybe a guy like him might be someone you put out there because he was everywhere. Maybe he's the next linebacker that you kind of lean on. I know he's a true freshman, but he's a lot of fun to watch play. So he could be someone you see. So there's a whole bunch. And, once your depth starts to get hit, you got to start playing some of these young kids because you brought in a huge recruiting class last year and these guys are going to have to play. So those are some names I would be watching for. Names I don't expect would be like Mekhi Dodd. You never know, but I would think Bo McCormick probably has a little leg over him. Shaker Reisig, I don't think will be playing. And then there's the tight ends and things like that. You don't need them yet, so I don't expect them, but you never know. Maybe this, practices are closed. Maybe there's some changes that I'm not even aware of yet. We'll have to wait and see. On our last segment, the ACC is looking at 2 scheduling models moving forward after the SEC makes their move. What are they and why I think one would be a better fit for Boston College? I'll explain all that in just a moment. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can take every drives and feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And if we are your first listen, I want to tell you what your second listen should be. Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, talking about everything big going on in college football, hot seats, playoffs, everything else going on in the world of college football. You can find that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, the ACC met on Monday. And at the time of this recording, unfortunately, I don't know what they said, but I'm going to tell you about the two options because this was something that was on my burner to talk about with you last week. I just didn't have the time to do it. So the SEC decided they're going to go to 9 conference games. That means they're going to cut down on their out-of-conference schedule. And, that's going to impact the rest of college football. Now, this impacts, strength of schedule, all this other good stuff. Now, the ACC are looking at 2 different models. There's the 8+2 and the 9+1. The 8+2 is basically that you keep the ACC schedule that you have now, and you require every team to schedule 2 Power 4 teams every year. The 9+1 is that you add an extra ACC game and then 1 out-of-conference game against a Power 4 program. I don't think they count the Pac-12 yet, so unfortunately they're kind of left out of this conversation. For Boston College, the one I like more, I have to say, is the 8+2. I am all about variety, and I am not a huge fan of putting in games like Alabama, Ohio State. I don't think those are the best games for BC at this point. Maybe when they're actually played, we'll be in a better spot. But the games that BC has played that are out of conference have been a lot of fun. That are out of Power 4. Michigan State the last 2 years, great games. Missouri the last 2 times they played, great games. You see what I mean here? Like, you can get these good out of conference games that are more in your bracket. So teams like, even a team like Wisconsin or Indiana's on the rise, but Indiana, Illinois, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, those types of games, those would be fun additions to the schedule. I personally, this is my personal opinion, adding in an extra game that could be Wake Forest, Duke, NC State, Virginia, they just don't do it for me. I just have a hard time caring, especially if that extra game is you're playing in Stanford again. I don't need another 10:30 start. Sorry, I don't want that. So hopefully they go for the 8-2. I wonder where the power brokers of this conference are at. And by power brokers, I mean Clemson, Florida State, and Miami. I imagine the flexibility of adding their own games is more attractive to them, so that Florida State can play Florida and, who did they play this year? Alabama. They were able to add their own marquee games. They did that. Miami just played Notre Dame, and someone played Clemson played LSU. The flexibility, I imagine, will make those teams happier. For me, who covers a team that doesn't have that, marquee name, I want to see other schools. I don't need to see more ACC games. And honestly, I think it gets more buzz. Like, the Michigan State game got a lot of eyeballs. Look at it. It was on NBC. Look at the game last year. It was, the red bandana game. Like, those games have more weight. And it does help a little bit. It can. In the recruiting world too, because you go and play, and you got to win, but you can go and play in areas where you recruit and show what your product looks like. I think that's important. So that's why I think 8-2 would be the best one. Now I'm going to probably end up ending this recording, and it's going to be this 9-1. And you all go, AJ, you're wrong, because I probably was wrong. But that was just a little discussion on the new schedule. They're supposed to make their decision soon, so we'll have a discussion about that again too. Later this week, we're going to have Mitch Wolf on again. We'll do our predictions. We'll talk all about this week and what he thinks about this game. He's watching the film right now as I record this. You're going to want to hear his thoughts on that. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. You can check me out on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads. I'm everywhere there's social media. Sometimes I think I'm on too many things of social media. But if you're on them, come find me. Follow along and check me out on Eagle Insider for all my written work. Thank you all for following along. Thank you all who made us your first listen every day. And to all my everydayers out there, thank you for making us part of your routine. This is AJ Black. We'll see you again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.